4 quarters. Well, not 4, that'd be the whole game. And really, the defense only had one error. In all reality, I mean, one real big error, and that was on play calling. Okay, the touchdown on the screen pass on 3rd and 10, where the Vikes were in an all-out blitz, and Alex Smith saw it, pointed everything out before snapping the ball to his offense, called the play, threw the ball. They had like 4 blockers to 2 defenders, and the guy running the ball, there was no missed tackles on it, and there was no failed execution on any player's part. It was a horrible, inexplicable play call in 3rd and 10 from where they were on the field that under no circumstances that defensive play call a smart, sensible, intelligent play call. So that was all on Zimmer. Other than that one play call, Zimmer coached a very good game defensively, and Norv, for the most part, coached a good game offensively, just a few minor things here and there. So let's get down to the player breakdown. Blair Walsh had yet another good, solid game. It appears as though maybe, knock on wood, that we do not have to be concerned or worried about his ability to put the ball through the uprights consistently for the Vikings. Hope that is the case. Hope I didn't jinx us. The referees were absolutely terrible in this game. I decided to make the referees a category when I'm watching film, and they were absolutely awful. They did have one call, I thought, that was a tough call to make that they actually did get right. Other than that, they've got just a whole bunch of minuses, some of which have exclamation points behind them. So the refs will just, long story short, the refs were freaking awful in that game, as they've been in a lot of games every week this year in the NFL. I don't understand why the referees think that going to the video review and then changing what the call on the field was to what the video suggests it should be is in some way them saying to the world, we were wrong, we got it wrong. No, it is quite the opposite. That is their way of saying to the world, we took the time to examine the video evidence of it, and this is exactly, without a doubt, what happened. Doesn't matter if it's what we said or if it's not what we said. We took the time to examine it thoroughly, and this is the right call. And so we're getting it right. We're insisting on getting it right. But for some reason, they still act with the stubbornness of, well, the call on the field is that's what we go with, unless, man, it boggles my mind. The holding penalty that took place, that should have been a safety, that took place early in the game, that was 100% a hold in the end zone, should have been a penalty. And the one Mike Carey commentator is a moron. Don't ever listen to or believe anything that Mike Carey ever says when he's consulted at any point in a football broadcast. That guy is an idiot, doesn't know what he's talking about. Trent Green, actually former NFL quarterback, doing an excellent job on commentary throughout that entire game. I wanted to give a bonus shout out to him, because generally the commentators, especially the former player commentators, are just really not good and undeserving of their jobs. But I was very, very pleased with Trent Green's commentary in the game as well. And then also, I set aside a category as well where the offensive line as a unit would be graded, in addition to the individuals on the O-line being graded as well. And throughout the first 3 quarters, there was not one play where the whole unit played bad, and there were 3 where the entire unit got a plus and played overly well. So then moving on to the players, let's start defense first to shake it up. Linval Joseph was really kind of non-impactful. Sharif Floyd, however, continuing to be just my favorite player on the defense by far, week in and week out, the most impressive. Watch Sharif Floyd get off the ball. He just explodes off the snap. Like no defensive tackle, let alone one of his size, that I have seen in a long time, if ever. The way he gets off the ball reminds me almost of John Randall plus 5 inches and 60 pounds. It's remarkable with his size, the quickness and explosiveness that he's got in his first couple steps. It's remarkable to watch, and he has jumped up. This isn't the first time. This is almost every game now this entire season. Sharrif Floyd has leaped off of the film screen to me, and this week was no different. He had a bogus penalty called on him, and then I had 3 pluses and a character star. I watched this guy crush a dude on the tackle, on top of him, and then immediately when Sharrif Floyd got up, he reached his hand out, grabbed the hand of the opposing player who he had just tackled, helped him up to his feet, patted him on the butt, and went back to huddle up and get ready for the next play. That was probably the most impressive thing I've seen in the NFL all year. You do not see that in the NFL. You don't see any sportsmanship between opposing teams and opposing players like that of any kind at all, ever, under any circumstances. And that kind of character was instilled in me. Was just ingrained and embedded and implanted and tattooed on my soul. That's part of the right way to play the game. Because I had as great of a high school football coach as anyone could ever have. Thank you, Mr. Solom. But like I said, you never see anyone in the pros do anything like that under any circumstances. At the game, after the game, they'll be all buddy-buddy. And before the game, they'll be all buddy-buddy. But when you're playing, you never see that ever. And so I thought it was amazing to see a young guy like Sharrif Floyd, who plays with a ton of passion and fire, and is intense, to see him make a play and then help the guy up off the ground just genuinely out of respect. I'm a good person with a high character, and I play the right way, and so I'm gonna hit that guy as hard as I can, and then I'm gonna help him up off the ground, pat him on the butt, and we're gonna go our separate ways, and we're gonna both try to do our best on the next play and every play after that. Sharrif Williams, not only athletic player of the game on defense, or co-athletic player of the game on defense for the Vikes last week, but the character star of the week and the entire season for the Vikings and the NFL, as far as I'm concerned, in that one small, simple act. Let's see. Also, we had Tom Johnson, defensive tackle, contributing quite a bit as well, where Linval wasn't. B-Rob, big error, recovered, later on in the game. Hunter starting in place of Everson Griffin, who was ill, did not play at all. Played fairly well, didn't make any big mistakes, which was the primary thing. No minuses for him and 1 plus. Let's see, Sendejo didn't play too terribly bad, but there was a completion that he should have at least turned into a pass deflection, if not a pick. But for whatever reason, whether it be the DB's coach or whether it be Mike Zimmer, our defensive backs refuse to ever locate the football when it is in the air. Period. We will not at any point in time turn our head away from the person we are covering. We will always insist that the backs of our heads be facing the football. It's just, I don't understand it at all. And it's week after week, every player in that secondary. So it's clearly something they're being coached by someone. And there's just so many opportunities that they're leaving out there. So many picks that they're not even attempting, that they don't even know they can catch, that it's there to catch, let alone they're trying and failing or succeeding. Kendricks starting full-time now for his first game, now that we traded away Hodges like a bunch of morons. And Kendricks actually, to my surprise, played quite the opposite of how I expected him to. He played fairly decent against the run when in the 4-3. And it was against the pass, in pass coverage, that he continuously play after play, all game, really struggled in. Just looking confused, unaware, in the wrong place, uncertain, really poor. So Kendricks did not have a good game. If you think he had a good game, or someone tries to tell you that he played well against Kansas City, he did not. They don't know what they're talking about. He didn't play terrible, he didn't stink up the joint by any means, but there was a lot of errors that are inexcusable and correctable. So hopefully they get corrected. But he did not play well. Also, Rhodes played mediocre. He gets called for penalties, way more penalties than he should. Or at least a lot of the ones he gets called for shouldn't in fact be penalties. Terrence Newman, of all people, actually had 2 pluses to 1 minus, where normally he, sets the record every week for bad plays on the Vikings. He's kind of the standard bearer for that. And then Harrison Smith, I was not impressed with this week as well. I felt like he didn't play as good as he's capable of and has been playing this year. A little bit of a down game. And Captain Munnerlyn would be my other defensive MVP, along with Sharif Floyd from last week. Again, just dominating at that nickel corner position. And I hear everybody, not everybody, but I hear a lot of people, asking and talking about why did he stink last year and why is he so good this year? And, and I even hear people like Zimmer, when asked on it, saying, he's doing what I'm asking him to do now and stuff. No. Well, yes, to an extent. Last year he wasn't successful in doing what you asked him to do. Doesn't mean he wasn't trying to do what you asked him to do. But last year you were asking him to do something different. You were asking him to be an outside cover corner, when Captain Munnerlyn is and always has been a nickel corner. Okay? He's a nickel back, okay? It's no different, okay? And let me explain this to you real quick. If you want to understand why it didn't work last year and why it's working this year, take Wes Welker, okay? Someone and something that people are more familiar with, okay? Wes Welker is a wide receiver, a really good, successful one. However, he's a slot wide receiver, okay? Which means he's not on the sidelines. He's in between a wide receiver and the tight end, or in between a wide receiver and the tackle, depending on the formation. But he's lined up in the inside middle part of the field. He's not out on a sideline. He's not running deep routes down the sidelines. If you took Wes Welker and put him as your number 1 or number 2 receiver on the outside, he wouldn't give you numbers. He'd struggle. He wouldn't be productive. And go, oh, well, what's the problem? Oh, he stinks. Oh, he's washed up. Yeah, and then the next year, he'd go to a different team, and they'd have him as a slot receiver again, and he'd have great numbers again, because that's the position he plays, or running back, Well, Zach Lyne's a great fullback. How come he's not able to run for 100 yards when we give him the ball 20 times? Because a fullback and a halfback are 2 different kinds of backs with different responsibilities, and different skill sets that come into play, different strengths that are required, different weaknesses to be exploited. It's so freaking simple. He's playing a different position. That's why. Last year he was playing a position that he should have never been playing in the first place, which I told everybody from day one if they'd just listen to me. So thank you for listening to me, by the way. But that's why Munnerlyn is doing so great this year, because he's playing his position that he is really, really good at. Now quickly to the offense, and then we gotta speed things up here. All right, AP, he had about 5 pluses to 5 minuses. I didn't think he looked as terrible as a lot of people did. However, there were a lot of things I didn't like that I saw from him. But everything that I saw from Adrian that I didn't like came down to 2 things. One was vision. His vision and seeing where the holes is, where the hole is, where the cutback lane is, things like that. He left an easy touchdown, an easy wide open touchdown on the board in that first quarter. He had an easy 15, 20-yard touchdown run. It was